he said he used to have a construction company, but he doesn't now, so he really is not legitimate. Like I said, he's my cousin.
All right, we're ready to go live.
He's doing a wonderful job.
I'll just leave it
We're trying to keep
screen
everything
until you're ready.
I'll start in 2 minutes.
Yeah, I was going in bed one night, half asleep, and all of a sudden I heard this crash. And about half of it fell down. Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Bill, that was so interesting. I'm probably going to start looking at streams. I've only got two. I can't remember. I bought them from Bob a long time
Shade of
ago.
green, but it's not a gun.
Alexander's had them apart, so he knows whether
But
they have
the face there looks great.
Let's go by the body. Yeah.
You know, that brings the
So I like all the
reason to
green.
collect them.
I mean, if it's not green, we should cross over. Good bidding already. Good.
Oh, this is where we are right
It's
now.
like I could never afford any of the ones
Go
that's
down here and
lawn
go
shows.
there.
Okay, I'll run them.
Right.
First cameras I bought, $4 for $5.
It's not.
We were going to try to buy a month. Somebody asked me.
Or maybe I can stand over here and then
3,000 cameras later.
We're going to go here and then we'll go Saturday. Why was Sunday morning changed from
Well, when I moved out of my shop, I had some. I sold all the good stuff. Except for all the good stuff. Took the junk box. I had to pay $1,000 for a shed.
I sat down and within about 20 minutes,
That's worth more than
basic measuring tools and a protractor.
How many cameras we end up with? You didn't count them?
One of the two like UFJs were by the this is the one that sort of a reference. Maybe that's the same. Still use one. One was a gray cloud. The other was just a representation of the existing that were solid. And then they had to be that transmutated in some other form to
I'm going to move. I'm not going to have like this. That's a good looking camera down here. Does it work
stand right over
well?
here, please. We're going to all be in the picture as we start. Oh, the older people too? Yeah, just the oldest people.
Okay, get up
There
here.
you go. Get these guys. They brought their own chairs.
There's a chair over here.
Yeah, you can. Oh, yeah. Well, maybe you're right there.
Did you watch this? Everybody knows the rule is if you can't see the camera,
You start nice and wide before you can pan over to me, and then we'll sort of break them up and start with you. Are you on? Okay, welcome to the Argus Collectors Group walkthrough. This is a time when we walk through all of our displays, and each member with a display, if they'd like to, can spend 2 to 5 minutes just describing their display, then we'll move on to the next display. And also I wanted to mention, we've built the brick wall, so everyone should be able to see the brick wall, and we have, from the museum, we have a giant brick that they sent down. Also want to take the opportunity to tell all the members here, or who are viewing, that the Argus collection is now a part of the Washtenaw County Historical Society. And some of their brochures are here. If you're not already a member, this would be a great way to support the Argus collection by becoming a member of that society. And it's this local group there that has a couple of nice museum locations. And now the Argus Museum has folded in to be their 3rd location. So what we're going to do is we're going to start going down this wall. We'll sort of circle around the broom here. We may have a few glitches along the way. Just stay with us. And so you guys can move on over, and we'll let Joe take over, and we'll pan over to let Joe do his portion first, and you can just follow us along. Okay, Joe. Go ahead and tell us about your display.
Okay, I put this display together to show that you can still use your 110 camera today. Now, Kodak introduced the 110 film format in 1972. By 1978, it was because the camera had become 35mm was so much better in quality that the 110 eventually went sideline. Lomography, however, has reintroduced the film, and the film can be bought online. It comes in color and black and white. Biggest problem is getting it processed. To find someone to process it or the black and white is difficult. I have found one store in Toronto where I live that processes 110. They'll only process it. They won't give you prints. Which means you have to scan them yourself. What I did, or you can go on eBay and find developing tanks that will take 110. But I took a 35mm tank and just cut it down to hold the film. Now I have had some problems with the processing because I found out that it takes a long time in this tank to pour the film in. And I kept over-developing it and getting very dense negatives. So I haven't really resolved the processing 100%. After you process it, then you need to scan it. And what you need to do is on your scanner build some sort of adapter to hold the 110 film. Now most scanners have a lid with the strip down the middle for 35mm. I've tried building one to fit that strip, and I can't get it to work. I have no idea why. I haven't figured that out yet. On my adapter 4x5, I built this one and it works really well. And I do get a reasonably half-decent photograph. And what
It's pretty nice.
I have noticed there's a difference. I've used 2 or 3 of these cameras, and there's a difference in quality between all the cameras. Hopefully I can find one, and Ron told me this morning, this one actually takes a pretty good photograph.
It's an attractive camera too, really. It's a pretty good
Okay,
camera.
thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Let's just roll down the road here and we'll pick up Earl.
All right.
This is one of the nicest rescue projects I think I've ever seen. So, Earl, tell us about it.
This is a Century 47. The camera was probably built in 1906 to 1912 and maybe up to 1924. It's a 5x7. When I got it, it was in pieces. It was in smelly pieces. The bellows actually reeked. And I managed to beat Tom out of this. Tom was holding it when I saw it, and
You wouldn't give it back.
I talked him out of it, and now he wants his camera back. Website, I have put some pictures of this thing that was in process, and that website is rollrock.us/Argus/Century project. If you just go to Argus, you'll find it. Just scroll down. The photograph here is one of the first successful photographs I made with this camera. It was made on X-ray film. It's been a fun project. It took a while to do it.
Earl, you got to tell them what's going to happen to that photograph tomorrow.
Oh, yes. Tomorrow, we're going to auction the photograph off.
Yeah, so that'll be in the live auction tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Earl.
Did you have, Earl, how much work did you have to do to make the bellows function? You know,
The bellows was actually pretty simple. It was just covered with mildew and mold.
so it was light type to begin with.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I might have had to repair 1 or 2 small holes in it. But other than
And what do you use to repair it?
There's a fabric paint that you can get it at Walmart and
Okay.
some other places. And they generally keep it locked up to keep the kids out of it.
Right.
So
I need a bottle of that.
it's a pretty thick liquid.
Smell or to prepare
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize
Be
it had
careful
other
what you do with it.
possibilities. Initially, I wanted to prepare.
No, the
Bellows.
kids get into it and they spread it all over the store.
Oh, I thought maybe they were smelling
Yeah,
it.
no.
Okay, thanks, Earl.
Fabric paint.
We'll
Once,
move on down
Bob,
the
if you don't mind, he's being very modest because he also fixed the focal plane shutter that's in that camera.
Whoa.
But he's missing half the shutter. So
Yeah.
until we can find this, or he can find a suitable blade material for a 5x7. But he fixed the shutter plane, focal plane rather, shutter that's built in.
That's a
So
challenge.
that was impressive too.
Okay.
I just want to know when I'm going to get it back.
You don't. I'm sorry.
Line forms to the left.
You want to pay per hour for my labor?
Add up to something.
Okay, next we'll start here. We'll go on with Vaughn. Vaughn actually has two separate small displays here, and you just go ahead and take them over.
Okay, my first display is, I call it the Argoflex DNA. And it's sort of like an exercise in connections. Where did it come from and where did it go? And I based it on the front element focusing. On the Argoflex, the lenses are geared together. And what sparked it is on my way home last year when I went antiquing, and I found, first off, I found a Ricoflex and noticed that it had geared focusing. And I bought it. Immediately I had it in mind for a display. And also I found a Mamiya Flex at another store. Same focusing. And then I went to the, I guess you might say, the fountain of all photographic information, McGowan's, and searched out all of the front element focusing geared lens TLRs. The first instance was the Voigtlander Brilliant that came out in 1938, and it sold from 38 to 48, and then disappeared. And Voigtlander started in making just simple box camera TLRs. In 1948, the Argoflex appeared, geared front focusing, and progressed through the Argoflex EM, then the EF for flash, kind of devolved then to the Argoflex E, which was somewhat, I guess, more inexpensive to make, and that lasted until about 1940. All of these were between 1948 and 1951. Kodak, I guess, noticing that Argus did something, in 1946 brought out the Kodak Reflex, and then they had that in production until about 49. The next instance of one appearing that I could find, or that I've been able to purchase, is the Mamiya Flex that came out in 1952. The Ricoflex 4 came out in 1954. The Lubitel, which is now the Lomo Corporation, started production of a geared front focusing lens in 1949, and they were up in production up until 1993. This is a much later edition. It's very cheap. It's a chintzy box camera, but it started out more on the line copying the Voigtlander. I thought it's circle. Yeah, it's kind of a circle, you know. I don't know. It's just it interested me at the time of the progression of where this front focusing arrangement came from and where it went. And I kind of have a feeling that the front focusing went away because Rolleiflex was so popular and so successful with focusing the whole front of the camera. And even Argus with the Flex 2 was going in that direction. My second part here is the physical part of the presentation that I gave a little earlier, showing the examples of the cameras I have. The three that that are for me unattainable are photographs in the background. I had mentioned the Argus memo. I mean, the AGFA memo, which I think it's easy to make the mistake. Right. You see many Arguses or AGFAs in Argus, and you can see that the way the advanced mechanism is a knob on the back, and if you look closely, there are two pawls on either side of the pressure plate that engage the film sprockets and pull the film down. This is the film cartridge.
Sometimes hard to find.
They work really good, except if they're dirty, they'll scratch the film. It has a little like spring guide behind that will keep the film going around and around.
Todd, you found pictures in one of these, right?
Yes. That's the next one. This is the Ellison, and you can see how kind of bulky it is, and the viewfinder, it actually turns over to the side where you can use it like this to take vertical pictures, or like that to take horizontal. And it has, this is the film cartridge. It's a large Bakelite box, and you notice the pulley on the end. It's attached to a boss on the inside, and on the take-up, this is attached to the sprockets with like a spring drive. I was surprised when I got it, when I opened up the thing, and there was actually a roll of developed film in, and they were pictures that appeared to be of a family vacation or some kind of gathering.
Using the camera? No.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
And it kind of dated the camera, because the most identifiable picture is the picture of a, of this automobile right here, which is an American Austin that was available, that was produced in the United States between about 1927 and 1930.
So in other words, I mean, that was probably a relatively expensive car, right?
No, it actually was quite cheap.
Okay.
It was a runabout. It's an American version of the Austin 7 from England. And at that time, well, let's make a compact car like they have in Europe. And needless to say, it didn't sell too well. We like large cars.
Never were able to figure out.
But
who
you'll
the family
notice,
was.
if I invite you to take a look at the pictures, they are heavily scratched, and that's from the film cartridge. Then I have a grouping here of the QRS, or the cameras. This one has, it's a 40 millimeter unmarked lens. There's no markings on it. This one has the f7.7 graph, and it's in aluminum. This one has a the Wollensack Ellison Hollywood.
And these are the ones you said were all phenolic, right?
Yes. These are all made of phenolic.
Yeah.
This one, DeVry, QRS started it, and then they changed their name to QRS DeVry, and they changed the name of the camera from the DeVry, from a camera. This is called the DeVry Model K1. It's quite interesting. And this is the film cartridge that the QRS used. A somewhat larger, a smaller version than this, but in the same vein as the Ansco cartridge. So I thought the acquisition of the Ansco got me started looking at other early 35 millimeters. I have one oddity that appeals to myself and probably Ron, We collect Argus and other guises. We have and have been working a long time on the Bosch & Lomb microscope cameras, and they used Argus bodies, several iterations of Argus bodies. This I found on eBay, and it's a urban gray cam. It's called a VisiCam. That uses an Argus A body as the film transport, and will attach to a microscope. And it uses, instead of the half-silvered mirror that the Bosch & Lomb uses, this uses a flip mirror.
That's cool.
That you flip the mirror to direct the light to the focusing screen or the camera. It's not complete. There's another one on eBay that is complete, but it's too expensive for me. But I thought it was interesting. It goes in with a lot of the stuff that the type of cameras that Ron and I kind of interested in. Those are my.
Thank you. Very good.
Stuff.
It's interesting when you do the presentation and walk in here and you start just look at the real thing too. So.
Yeah.
Okay, next we're going to have Matt Johnson.
Well, unlike everyone else, I don't have much to say about mine because I don't have much of a theme. This is just my various contest cameras over the years. Started out with my early model C3 standard, added on the turret finder to the idler gear. And this was my contest camera the first year. And then later I moved on, collected the C2s, and the Golden Shields. And as I grew up, I got the 33. That was my contest camera last year, I believe. And then my last edition was the presentation case. One of those just happened to come by. Found them. Didn't have to add much, just had to add the flash. And got the 1.9 lens to go in the case. And later, still found the Geiss PD-135. I believe that was from last year's auction.
One thing about that 1.9, Matt, is it is one of the cleanest ones that I think I've ever seen. Most of those, correct me, folks, most of those front coating is real. But we thought, oh, what we'll do, we'll put a portrait lens. This is actually a 3-diopter Argus close-up lens. Stick that on there, and then you can get almost a full range of focusing from infinity down to about 5 feet with this. And this is a picture we actually took with the camera. It's very hard to use this camera. It's hard to focus. It's got
Yeah.
Good point. It's got aperture preferred automatic exposure, because that was what came in the original SpongeBob camera, and we didn't have the expertise to change or the ability to change that. It looks like this on the inside, and there's a few more pictures here that describe the various stages in the completion of the camera, and we'll have a more detailed talk on it tomorrow.
Very good. Thanks, Michael. Okay, Curtis Reddick now has had this lifetime project of recording C3, all the data on the C3s that he has, and I'll let you talk about it.
Well, I've been collecting cameras 55 years. About 45 years ago, I started specializing in American cameras. About 40 years ago, I got hooked on Argus. And as I started collecting Argus C, C2s, and C3s, I noticed they were different. And I started with the spreadsheet that was about this big. It had 15 cameras and 5 or 6 different things I thought would change. That's grown to this, which is most that I know of now. And all across the top are the features that change and the different things that can be. And down the side are the serial numbers of my cameras. You really have to look at it, and just having them all together. And I had them laid out on the floor in like 5 or 6 rows across a 21-foot stretch in the house upstairs. My wife wouldn't let me have them downstairs. Of course not. And as you're going along, you can see, hey, that's different. What is it different? So I started. You have to look at it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, really spectacular. Yeah, thank you, Curtis. Okay, to move around the corner here, and Mike has two more displays. One, a really interesting scientific camera, and then sort of an update on his never-ending search for Bendix radio.
This camera, although you might not figure at first, is in fact an Argus modified. It's a C3, and it was employed by the Berkeley Radiation Laboratory. Now, Berkeley Radiation Laboratory later became Lawrence Berkeley Livermore Lab. But in the late 40s and early 50s, when it was doing research on the atomic bomb and when it dominated the development of and the discovery of new elements, a list of probably 20 or about 20 elements, in fact, were discovered by the Berkeley Radiation Lab from about 1937 through about 1965. And this camera was in use at that laboratory for a considerable interval during that time. We bought it at a flea market at Candlestick Park, and the first thing we noticed about it when we turned it on the back and we saw that it was from the University of California Radiation Laboratory, that it was made in San Jose by an outfit called San Jose Precision or Sigma Precision Engineering. And so Pam and I said, well, what can we find out? This is a San Jose company. We should be able to find out, at least, when this thing was made. So we went to the city directory, we started looking through all the city directories, and we in fact found a listing in the city directory for Sigma Precision Engineering from 1957. Furthermore, we found the name of the guy that owned the company, a guy named Carl Caroli. And by contacting his family and snooping around Ancestry.com and so on, we found out that Carl Caroli, about the Argus Eyes for Victory movie that Ron had duplicated, that was the origin of a lot of the research that I did on Argus during World War II optical production. What we don't recall, we don't remember, is that across the street from Plant 2, where they're doing all this wonderful optical stuff, there was Plant 1. Plant 1 had stopped making radios in 1939. In 1940, about August or maybe a little bit later, Bendix came to them, or they went to Bendix, and they said, we've got excess productive capacity here for radio production. They began making radios for and all other kinds of electronic gizmos for Bendix Aviation. And so Pam and I have made it our objective to find every documented piece of Bendix Aviation radio history that was created in the Argus Plant 1 during World War II. Luckily, I think Ron is the one that gave me this, I'm not sure, there is a document that shows photographs from the annual report of 1945-1946 of about 30 different devices that Argus made during World War II in their Plant 1 for Bendix Aviation. There is no identification on any of these things. They have very generic descriptions like tuner, or
Tuna, or
cable connector or something like that. But we've been able to find a few of them by looking at multiple sources. We'll go into a presentation. I just have two of them here right now. This is the Azon-Razon bomb controller. It was used during World War II by the units that attacked bombs in the China-India-Burma theater. This one says International Industries on it. Clearly from World War II. There are some that say Argus incorporated on them. This is serial number like 244. It went with a transmitter, which I've got a standing offer of $500 for anybody that can find one. Very rare. Unfortunately, ham radio people like to get their hands on them.
Next thing we're going to do is swing right around over here, and Ron Norwood's going to come in, talk about the SLRs that he brought with him. Ron is driving in today because he's recently had back surgery, so he arrives in his own chair.
Thank you.
Chariot, not chariot.
Cherry, oh, cherry. That's what I meant, cherry.
Chariot.
Oh, sweet cherry. Several times I have displayed SLRs and drawn lines as to the heritage. The original Argus SLR was mentioned a while ago, and there are direct lines from manufacturers. of where engineering went and this sort of thing, so that there's a direct line from the original SLR. That's nothing but a piece of Scotch tape. Mike, I pulled it out of the cabinet. Mike's standing there. It's nothing but Scotch tape.
Well, I suggested you place the Scotch tape there, Ron. That's what I said.
Well, I wasn't going to let them know that. But this is the Argus version that was being sold by Argus Canada with a name called Optex. Well, they were also bragging about their other camera, a Safari Tf300. Lo and behold, same camera, two different names coming from that company. Well, I've got this bad habit of following trails. Well, here's the Cinton Tf300 from England. Well, I forgot to tell you, all these are made by Shanghai Camera in China. Here's the SX300 from Korea. I don't know why they had to change the DF. The Russians found out that it was cheaper to buy cameras in China than it was to continue to make them in Russia. So here's the Zenith Tf300. The Pentax, the Vivitar, Minolta. And there's a good reason for there being a Minolta, because before Minolta stopped making cameras in Japan, they shopped their work out to China. And when those patents expired, Shanghai Camera was making them something called Seagull. So Seagull is the biggest production of DF300s. But the real basis for the cameras, if you go back, the Minolta 370 is the DF300 for Europe. The X300 is the Minolta for this country. So you got all these things that are all from the same family, all coming out of same manufacturing place. And I've just followed them. I think it's interesting. Mike and I and Vaughn and I, we got these weird habits of following things. And that's what this is. It's just another one of these trails that I followed, like following from the SLR all the way around to the casinos.
Are these lens mounts, Ron? Are these all the same lens mount?
These are all Minolta mounts.
All Minolta mount. Okay, interesting.
Even the Pentax guy?
Pardon?
Even the one labeled Pentax?
Wow. So we could have an Argus. Wait a minute, we could have a Pentax with an Argus lens on it, or a Minolta with an Argus lens on it. The lenses have Argus on them conventionally or not?
The Safari has a Seagull lens on it, and it's the same lens because of lens mounts. The Vivitar
says Vivitar on it.
The Vivitar's got a Vivitar lens. The Pentax has a Pentax lens name-wise on it. This Minolta is got a Minolta lens.
Now what is the lens name on? Is there a name on the Argus lens? Say there or what? Or just it's just generic? Oh, would that be great?
No, there's no name.
No, okay.
No name on it at all.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Now what we're going to do is swing down here, and it's a mini display, so if you'll swing around this way. I'll discuss a couple of them here. First of all, over here is some of you were interested in the ingenue lenses. Richard Mayer, the gentleman who actually worked at Argus and where those lenses came from, also sent some additional lenses that he had in his stock. And they're for sale. If you're interested in them, just see me. Also sent a list of other cameras that he has. These are things that have been lifted out of the Argus company and in the garage or the bedroom or something for like 60 years. This is an interesting little display that I brought. There was a gentleman in Spokane, Washington, who was a hoarder, but he was an organized hoarder. So when he started in the camera repair business, he would make small boxes to put all of his little parts in. And so then he would start mounting them up, and then he would make bigger boxes to put the small boxes in. And so these were his Argus parts. And it turns out that he also had Minolta parts, Pentex parts, and of course there were about 250 of these boxes that came in a collection that my local camera club purchased. So they were for sale for $2 a piece, so I bought the Argus right away. One of the most unique things about it is the bottom of every box has the exact dimensions, it was produced, and his signature. So take a look at that if you want to see an organized hoarder. How they operate.
There's something compulsive about this. I mean, those little boxes are tiny. Every one has got the date and the dimensions on it.
Yeah.
It's spectacular.
I thought I was compulsive with the boxes that I make for my cameras, but that's called OCD.
And this is one of how many did you say?
There were 250 of these boxes, yeah. Of all kinds of stuff. And of course, some of them, he was a hoarder, so some of them had matchbooks in them. This box is 1/2 by 1/2. Was made on June 17th of 1983 out of cardboard.
It's amazing.
Okay, take a look. Let's move on. Now, the next thing that we have here, and when we're done with this is departing from Eden directly to Ann Arbor. It's going to the museum. This is a tabletop practice your focusing of your split image or your superimposed image display that Argus used in actually in the drugstores. When they started moving to drugstores, they had a whole new clientele that wasn't quite sure about these cameras. So they had to train the people who worked in the drugstores, plus all the clientele came in. And they wanted to show them how easy it was to use an Argus camera to get exact perfect focus. So that'll be here, and then it'll head off to the museum. Okay, Tom has the next small section here.
Yeah, the whole section actually.
Yeah.
Okay, only have 5 minutes, huh?
About 5 minutes.
All right, to make a long story short, as I always say, the Argoflex 75 was the first plastic body twin lens reflex that Argus embarked on. And the design patent, which is more or less just, they call it an ornamental design. It's just a picture of what someone envisions a camera is going to be with no clue how it's going to work. And then later on, we come out with the actual patent with the design and all the internal mechanisms and whatnot. So now, I noticed on this patent that on the original patent, it says time and then instantaneous is on the bottom. And when you look at the Argoflex box, it says time and instantaneous is on the bottom. So everybody's opinion was it was just some sort of a typo or a glitch or a goof when they drew up the patent. So the next thing that came across in the story is who actually was the patenter of this Argoflex 75. And Argomania was indicating it was, what was it, Harley Earl. But I don't see anything in the patent about Harley Earl. There's a guy on here named Les Wilkinson as the actual patentee. One day, you hear a lot of us talking about Argus eyes. I was looking through old Argus eyes, and there was an article in there about a Les Wilkinson who won some sort of a contest in the company, and the first prize was an Argoflex 75. By coincidence, he was also the designer. So that to me proved that Les Wilkinson actually designed this camera. Now, as we take the plastic body Argoflex 75, it turned into the Argus 75, it turned into the model, the 40, the Super 75, ultimately the Argus with the crosshatch figure and the 75 in red on the top. And every single one of those cameras that I've ever seen had instantaneous and time, not time instantaneous like the patent shows. And one day online, lo and behold, I found time instantaneous, just like the patent. There's no numbers, there's no coded date code in there. And then shortly later, I found one just like with all the plastic bodies. They turned from a red button to a white button and back to a red button. I also found a red button. So, in the past year and a half, Bob Kelly and I have been searching eBay almost daily, and we've come up with 7 of these in the past year, with time on the top and instantaneous at the bottom.
Tom, what did you think when you were on eBay and you saw that first one?
I couldn't believe it. I mean, my heart was pounding in my chest. I grabbed the patent and I said, there it is.
There it is.
Just like the box,
amazing.
you know? And
now, later boxes have instant on the top, right?
yes, because Ron has a August 75 box, and it's correct.
Right.
The way it really is.
Did they change over the boxes about the same time they changed it over the cameras, or do you know?
I really don't know.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is that from taking them apart, like I always do, this time instantaneous has an extra lever and a spring to make that change, whereas the older ones just have a brass shim that sticks up in the path of the shutter to stop it and then release it.
So it was probably
pennies.
It was the simplest design to put time on the top.
Right, exactly. Right, and that's what they ultimately did. So now I've got 2 for the museum, you know, with a red button and a white button, because I'm sure the museum has the one that's technically wrong, you know, according to the patent. And have fun trying to find them now, if you want to.
Yeah, we've been searching and searching. We figured the price will go up now substantially.
Yeah, now they're worth $100 a piece.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
People start looking for it.
Tom, if you can just quickly revise also the last 2.
This is just when the C4 came out, it was a great camera, but most of the Japanese and European markets had changed to interchangeable lenses. August was kind of left behind, and Geist came out with a system where they had a set of changeable lenses for their C4 and C4R. And this has got all the lenses, and the only glitch here is that they all say lithogon, except this one 1.9 that says Eniston. But it came in an August box. And then finally, this is
How before you go too much?
sorry.
All the 1.9 say Eniston on it?
No, I've got one that says lithogon and one that says Eniston.
Oh, I got you.
It's actually the same, except lithogon, it says Eniston.
And this display was the winner for this small display last year or the year?
2012. Yeah. And then this is my meter. This is every meter that was detachable from an August camera and usable. You know, tons of cameras later, like the Otronics, they all had built-in meters, but that was getting to be ridiculous. These are just technically you could use every one of these separately without having a camera handy, except I think the color camera had its own calculator dial in the back. So why it was removable from the camera, who knew? Because you couldn't use it without it.
Thanks, Tom. Hey, I wanted to get everybody in a row right here because Wesley's going to come on out and take our picture again because we have a very special friend of ours in Ann Arbor watching. So if you would come down this way, Wes is going to get set up and we'll say hello.
We got room.
So we'll do a big giant hello. We'll do a big giant hello, Cheryl. Okay, we got a couple more moving in. Wesley, you got a wide enough shot to be able to join us, or what? Okay, Wesley, why don't you come on in here too? And then we'll do a 1, 2, 3. Hello, Cheryl! Good to see you.
Wish you were here. Wish you were here.
Okay, now we'll switch around, and Tom's going to talk about his flash display. Yeah. Wes, can you come this far out, or where's your cord going to end? Well, that's about where it's going to end. So let's stop right there. Okay, that's.
I looked around. There was really nothing in there. Yeah.
Okay, let's get your right here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now Tom's going to talk about his flash display, which gets better every year. And no, 5 minutes. And then all the C3s you brought in too.
Okay. Well, basically, like I've said, every year I do this. I've been collecting cameras since about 1970 when my daughter was born, seriously collecting cameras. And I always noticed that whenever I went to a camera show, cases, And to me, this is the most important thing that happened in photography after the actual photography. Because this allowed you to bring to market companies like Graflex and Kodak and a bunch, but I found out that there was so much, everything on this table is an August flash. You know, from like 19